got a whole lot of magic. She got a whole lot of magic now. If she's a little bit crazy, well, this whole town is anyhow. She got a whole lot of magic. She got a whole lot of magic now.
And that was the Wasteland Wailers with A Whole Lot of Magic. Hey there, friends. I'm Storybook, and welcome back to a Nuclear Reading Show. Today, we're continuing Somber's Fallout Equestria Project Horizons. If you're enjoying what I'm bringing to the Wasteland, don't be afraid to tell your friends about me, or find me on Blue Sky as Nuclear Yuki. You could also do us a great favour and check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/ANRS. This story does include some graphic scenes that may be distressing to some people. Your own discretion in listening is advised. Oh, and also, since the gangs are still being feisty, Fallout is owned by Bethesda, and Hasbro made My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. With all that said and done, welcome, friends, to the Wasteland.
Chapter 21, Waterfall, Part 2. Blackjack, are you sure about this? P21 asked as we moved through the ruins.
It's one of my plans. Of course I'm not sure about it. But Perch said that if we could deal with the sand dogs, it would open up the underground tunnels for salvaging again. And you know that there's always time for dealing with raiders and bandits. We've got at least 3 hours till Thrash patches up the boat. So why not do some good while we're here?
I have to wonder how your foes will view your good.
Lacunae said from the rear. She'd shed the heavy black lace dress and veil once we were out of sight of town. Oh, don't get her started with moral relativism. P21 groaned. She'd be stuck all day. Moral whatism?
Look, it's simple. We're good, they're bad. That's all I need to know.
Right, till one of them starts crying. The Blue Stallion muttered. Why are 4 smart ponies being led around by an idiot?
Can't be that smart then.
I stuck my tongue out at him and then looked at Rampage. She still wasn't much bigger than a filly, but I was not going to pick a fight with her, with that chainsaw knife in her jaws.
Hey, Rampage, are you smarter than me?
She spat out the blade and balanced it atop her head as she said something in zebra to me. A toss of her red curls and she caught the blade again in her jaws with a grin.
I'll take that as a yes,
I said with a roll of my eyes. The plan was simple. I would keep an eye open on my EFS for red bars. Glory would scout them out. We'd annihilate them and save the day. My Pitbuck's navigation had already set a toggle on Riverside. How it knew, I would never know. Once the dogs were out of the tunnels, the Seahorse would hopefully be ready to continue downstream. I just hoped that we didn't get lost amid these ruins. They were unlike anything I'd ever seen. The swampy remains of Flankfurt were nothing compared to the cracked and broken 10 and 20-story buildings that loomed over us. Most bore the telltale black charring of firestorms, and the streets were littered with rubble, smashed and twisted wagons, and of course, bones. Still, a century of scavenging had turned the ruins into rain-drenched shells. Perfect little lairs for predatory ponies. And speaking of which, there were some red bars straight ahead. I gestured to Glory, and she flitted from blasted-out window to blasted-out window, her grey hide and pale blue barding blending in with both the sky and rocks. I had to keep track of her blue bar at times. She scouted the hostiles and returned.
About 9 or 10. Some in an old store right around the corner, and the others in a coffee shop across the street. They've got a sniper on the 3rd floor. I couldn't tell if they're raiders or bandits, but they're all armed.
Red, it's dead,
I muttered, glancing at my Pitbuck. I imagined the cards shuffling in my mind, but I wasn't even going to acknowledge the pale bastard. If they were armed and hostile, this wasn't an execution. This was trouble, and we were taking care of it.
Okay, so I'm in front. Glory from above, tagging that sniper. Rampage, mixing it up. P21, keep your eyes open and use persuasion if there's a knot of them. And you...
I looked at Lacunae and suddenly felt at a bit of a loss.
What are you going to do?
I'll back you up.
She said with a faint smile. Right, well, that was less than specific, or comforting.
Okay, just don't shoot me, please.
I asked with a half-joking smile. I started towards the hostiles when P-21 cleared his throat.
What?
I asked, looking at him and his sardonic little smile. He stretched out a hoof and tapped the helmet sitting atop my saddlebags.
Oh, right. Headshot. Good thinking.
I levitated and strapped the helmet in place, flushing slightly. Okay. Now, were we ready? We were. I strolled down the street as clear as day with Taurus's rifle floating ahead of me. Rampage moved like a bona fide cat, unnervingly quiet without her clanging metal armor. Glory moved overhead like a silent guardian angel, while Lacunae walked behind me. Where P-21 was, I had no idea. Laying mines? Readying grenades? I just knew he'd be there. Through the scope, I saw a mare walking from the coffee shop towards the corner grocery store. I saw the spiked armor, the sawed-off shotgun, and, more importantly, the half-dozen hooves dangling off the sides of her barding. Most of all, I saw the eager grin that split her scarred face, yellowed eyes widening in glee at the sight of me. So I sent her brains out the back of her head with a clean shot through her left eye. All hell broke loose. At once, 3 more ponies rushed out, but they had the sense to go for cover behind the piles of rubble. One opened up with an SMG, a 10mm Zebra model if I knew my guns, and sprayed bullets down the street at me. Where the heck had Raiders gotten enough bullets to waste them with an SMG? The pistols were a little more accurate, but my barding took the rounds with equanimity as I took aim with the rifle and blew the noggin off the mare with the SMG. From overhead came the boom of a rifle round, and a resounding ping glanced off the side of my helmet. Somewhere, I was sure, P-21 was thinking smug thoughts. Okay, enough badass stupidity. I had their attention now, so I made for my own cover behind a fallen wagon as my head throbbed. As nice as the rifle was, it just didn't have the time or rate of fire for messy work. Good thing I had a shotgun. Glory swept sideways, raking the sniper's nest with her beam pistols. There was another loud boom from the sniper, but she deftly twisted clear of the shot, pirouetted, and resumed cooking the sniper with little beams of death. I just waited as Rampage raced in towards the 2 raiders with the 10mm automatics. The sight of a charging little zebra-striped pony seemed to make them hesitate in amusement. They realized their mistake too late, as Rampage leapt over the rubble and wrapped her hooves around the mare's neck. Then the Ripper roared as she sawed her head clean off in a fountain of blood that seemed to make the remaining raiders stare in awe. No one dares had been able to command these psychopaths. Unfortunately, her awe made her a sitting duck for a round of buckshot to the head. Now, where were the rest? From the inside of the store spilled the remainder of the raiders. They'd been taking their time getting their barding on and their guns ready. Another unicorn came out, spraying Rampage and me wildly, and this close in, the shots were much more effective. I slipped into Sats to plant 2 neat blasts in her head, then fired 2 more into the milling raiders behind her. Rampage jumped right over the fallen unicorn and slid on a sheet of blood to soar and kick wildly at the limbs of the raiders, as I fired off 2 more shots and then reloaded as fast as my horn could manage. Then, from the coffee shop behind me came the purr of a minigun motor. Instantly, my ass began to vibrate as the stream of shots started to chew through my barding. The 5mm rounds lacked individual punch, but I knew that in seconds, those individual rounds would add up to a very holy blackjack. Raiders behind me, raiders in front of me, not good. There was a soft thump, and a moment later the raider with the minigun was enveloped in a blast that tore off their head and all 4 limbs. What was left collapsed in a bloody heap that writhed for a few seconds. As 2 more came rushing to the door, P-21 emerged like a blue ghost, bit the stem off a frag grenade, and tossed it through. A second explosion, and 2 more red bars vanished. With Rampage already raising havoc inside, I charged in through the door and proceeded to paint the raiders with lead. One had heavy metal armor, but no helmet. Sats allowed the buckshot to render his head to paste. When the gun was empty, I tossed it into my sling rather than waste time reloading. Then I grabbed the fallen unicorn's 10mm SMG. One raider was taking aim with a hunting rifle. In a second, I unloaded the 25 bullets left in the clip into him. His rifle shot still hurt like hell. But then, like that, it was over. There was one red bar in the back of the grocery store, but I didn't see a target. Back room? Unconscious? I would find out, I supposed. Lacunae walked calmly behind me, her hooves avoiding stepping in the blood.
Watch out! There's one more in the back!
I looked at the carcasses put on display. Odd that so many of them were striped. They must have ambushed a zebra tribe nearby. It did explain all of the 10mm ammo. The guts dangled like garlands over the shelves. I moved towards the rear door that I guessed led into the stockroom. I paused and noticed a full-on bottle of sparkle cola sitting in the dead refrigerator. I floated it out, popped the top, pocketed the cap, and took a drink. Then continued to the door with the bottle floating on one side and the gun on the other. Carefully, I swung the door open, ready to pop Sats and end the hostile. This was a nursery. I saw the folds lying together inside some kind of pen next to a roll-up metal door. My mutant eyes picked out the shapes, one of them shaking and sobbing and rocking amid all the rest.
Hey, it's okay!
I said softly as I put the gun away. She was clutching a little ball to her chest as she sniffled and hiccuped.
You're safe now.
Then she looked at me. She giggled. Her scarred lips slashed all the way up to her ears as she raised her ball and bit off the stem. I just stood there as she threw it at me from the heap of dead fillies and colts. I couldn't move. I could only think play as I watched the grenade arc towards me. A shimmering, whitish-purple field appeared around the filly and the grenade. The explosive hit it and bounced back, just before the fuse ran out. The room shook. Part of the roll-up door blew out, but I just stood there, looking in a daze at the pulped pile of ponies. A voice whispered in my head.
I told you I would have your back.
The raiders had a surprising collection of firearms and explosives, something we helped ourselves to. Despite myself, I kept a pair of the 10mm SMGs and collected as many 30-round clips as I could. Glory looted the sniper's nest on the 3rd floor and brought locked ammo containers down for P21 and me to open. Rampage was munching down in the raiders' stores. I really hoped she was keeping it to identifiable food and skirting cannibalism. But she was a growing girl. Literally. I thought she looked as if she'd added half an inch since we'd left Riverside. I made sure to grab some extra cans for later. We heaped up the raiders in the middle of the street, and P21 tossed in 2 incendiary grenades. With 2 soft whooshes, the raiders began to cook in the magical magenta flame. The real surprise was Lacunae picking up the minigun with her magic and turning it over curiously. I was struck with how she handled it, ejecting the belt before detaching it from the slain raider's battle saddle. She tested the motor, rotating the barrel slowly as she maneuvered the massive weapon with shocking grace. She kept the weapon pointed towards the ground as she examined it closely. She knew guns.
Is there something you need?
She asked quietly as she noticed me watching her.
I just didn't expect the goddess to be into guns.
More than a few who have joined the goddess know about guns.
She said patiently, but there was a strange, scornful undertone in the telepathic voice.
The goddess, of course, knows that the guns are weak and worthless compared to raw magic. What are bombs and missiles to the energy of the cosmos itself?
She asked as she turned the weapon over again, pointing it down the street. I had no idea how you aimed a minigun.
You disagree?
One of the few who can. The goddess is quite disgusted with me for even handling such a weapon.
She said calmly as her magic lifted the heavy ammo drum from the battle saddle and slid it underneath the weapon, connecting the belt once more.
There is a certain destructive elegance in it, however. They are tools of war, crafted with care and skill.
I noticed her magic had no difficulty at all handling the weapon and ammo. I doubted I'd be even able to carry it.
So now you have a bigger horn and a bigger gun.
I grunted softly. A long, regretful sigh drifted through my mind.
Perhaps. But you have friends, Blackjack.
Are you saying that the goddess doesn't have friends?
I asked, scratching my head. She slowly shook her head in a negative. I gave a confused smile.
Wait, I thought all you alicorns were connected, right?
She gave a single nod.
Why would the goddess want friends if you're, well, all together?
Just because we are bonded doesn't mean we like each other.
She said as she pointed the minigun down the street and narrowed her eyes. The motor whirred and a spear of fire and lead lanced out to chew through the rusted side of a wagon. Her eyes relaxed as the gun whirred down.
Sometimes I think the goddess desires friends more than anything else in the wasteland. She simply cannot admit it.
There's nothing that says, "Welcome, we have milk and cookies," quite like a welcome mat that really did bear the words, "Welcome, we have milk and cookies." So it was somewhat understandable that, standing in front of the Riverside subway station, I felt a distinct sense of unease nibbling at my mane. I looked at the welcome mat sitting in front of the only unbarricaded door to the subway.
Well, should we knock?
I muttered as I stepped closer to the door. Beep, beep. I jumped back as a cone of shrapnel blasted up from the covered landmine.
Right, no knocking. That might count as a doorbell, though.
Carefully, I gripped the door with my magic, imagining a canine deus rushing out at me, screaming, "Cunt." Nothing came out, however. "Maybe I should go first," P21 said as he looked at the black doorway. Emergency lighting flickered in the depths. "And try not to touch anything," he said as he dug through his saddlebags and took out a pair of wire cutters. He knelt in the doorway, and there was a metallic snip as he cut a tripwire strung across it. He stepped cautiously through and past 2 rigged single-shot shotguns. I snagged the box of 12-gauge shells as I followed close behind him. The subway was a nightmare of tangled junk and debris, with one path snaking back and forth through it. There were 2 mines half hidden on the edges of the trail, but P21 walked with extraordinary cautiousness. I almost made him put on my barding. I might survive 1 mine, but he certainly wouldn't. He froze at a dingy bucket. "Blackjack, could you please turn that to face me?" he said softly. I slowly rotated the mouth of the bucket to face us, swallowing at the mine within. Calmly, he stretched forward and tagged the disarm tab with his hoof. "Thank you." My respect for him rose even more.
How did you know?
I asked. He gave me a sardonic look. I thought if I wanted to kill a mare stomping at the front of a row of ponies, what would I hide a mine inside so she'd kick the bucket? Glory gave a nervous little laugh. The pair of us looked back at her and she blinked.
That wasn't a joke?
Yes, Glory, it was a joke. It just wasn't very funny.
Why don't I just trot ahead and set them all off? It's not like they can kill me.
Rampage suggested with a cocky little cant of her head. Because if you miss one, then we get blown up anyway. P21 replied as he continued his crawl. We reached the turnstile, and P21 started to push through when he froze. Glory, can you fly over this and check the far side? The little grey Pegasus nimbly flew up over the top and landed behind the gate.
Don't push through that. There is a gas tank and a grenade.
P21 had me float his clippers to her, and she snipped the wire to the grenade. Only then did we move past. Thankfully, the space beyond the turnstile was clear of the heaps of debris, and we were able to spread out a little. There were bathrooms to the side with red hostiles. I pushed through down to the round lounge and relaxed at the sound of skittering radroaches. I stomped them with my hooves, then blinked as I saw a sparkle cola machine. Smiling, I trotted over and started to push the button to see if I could get a few more sodas. Blackjack! P21 warned, and I froze. I looked back at him, then at the machine. Slowly, I stepped back. It was finally starting to click that I shouldn't touch anything in here. Then I heard the metallic click of a first aid kit being unlatched near the door to the bathroom. I turned. As it creaked open, a round tin fell into Glory's hooves. She stared at it in horror, frozen. Then it exploded in her face. Glory fell back, screaming as she writhed. Her hooves shredded up to her elbows as she thrashed wildly in agony. I leapt atop her, pinning her, holding her tight as I levitated out a Med-X and jammed it into her leg. She stilled enough to go from screaming to sobbing.
I can't see,
she said around bloody and torn lips.
Goddesses, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I stared down at her as I tried to tear my eyes away from her bloody sockets. Save this one, Blackjack. No matter what, save this one. I fought to shake the urge to fall apart. I looked at the metal embedded in her face. Oh, this was going to suck.
Shut up!
I said as my magic proceeded to pick the bits of shrapnel out like tweezers. She gritted her teeth, trying to strangle her screams as piece after bloody piece was removed. Then I poured Sakashi's healing potions down her throat, and there was nothing for it. I took out a Hydra and injected the grey sludge into her as well. She immediately started gasping and squirming as her face began to knit back together thanks to the influence of both potions. Then she opened her bloody eyes and stared at me in shock. Sobbing, she curled up tight against me as she shook. Her face looked red and raw, but not blind or dead.
Shush. It's okay. You're okay.
But she nearly hadn't been.
Okay, so the rule is, don't touch anything.
It might be too late, P21 muttered as he looked behind us. They must have heard that.
Yeah, well, they almost killed my friend. They're about to hear a whole lot worse,
I muttered darkly. We picked our way down. P21 found a grenade box with a live grenade inside, a bottle of sparkle cola tied to a bomb inside a steel crate, and 3 grenades rigged to a tripwire. All of that was before we even reached the stairs going down to the actual subway platform itself. 3 more mines were on the steps, and he slowly crawled down to them. Then I glanced up and grabbed his rump hard with hooves and magic, pulling him back.
Stop!
I said sharply as I looked directly above him. 3 little amber lights were shining on the roof just above his head. If there had been a beeping, who would have looked up? Then I felt him shaking in my hooves. Get off, he stammered. I looked at exactly what I'd grabbed and suddenly felt that noxious mix of shame, embarrassment, and general horror at exactly what I'd pulled in getting him back. It was as if he couldn't even move once I'd moved away. I wanted to give him a hug as he trembled and gasped for air. I knew this was the one thing I couldn't give him.
I'm sorry, P21. It was an accident,
I muttered. I know. I know, he said before pressing his trembling lips together as he walked away from us. Just give me a second, he said as he walked back towards the bathrooms.
Blackjack,
Rampage said in a tone mixing impressed with scandal.
It was an accident,
I sputtered as I blushed furiously.
I hadn't meant to grab that with my magic. He was about to get blown up.
I stood and started towards the bathroom.
I've got to go and apologize.
You,
Rampage said firmly as she stepped into my path,
need to disarm those mines, while somebody with a lot less history, a lot less annoyance, and a lot more regeneration talks to him. Okay?
I stared at her in shock as she turned away, looking at the teddy bear on her flank as she disappeared down towards the bathroom. I frowned and snuck to the door as well. I was not going to allow a repeat of Thorn. I would bury her alive if I had to.
Go away, Rampage,
he said in that short-breathed voice.
I'm not in the mood to talk about it, especially with you. No surprise,
she replied. So then why are you staying? He demanded crossly.
Why is it that every mayor around me thinks you can tell me what to do now? This isn't 99. No, it isn't. And I'm not making you talk. I am not your friend. You can keep silent and not feel guilty. Lie to my face. Beat the snot out of me if it'll make you feel better. All I'm going to do is sit here.
There was a soft thump.
And listen, in case you do, until you're ready to go. Or Blackjack blows us all up with a well-timed sneeze.
I'm not going to talk about it. No response from Rampage.
Go away, damn it. There's nothing to talk about,
he said in a trembling voice. I pressed my back against the wall, my ears twitching as I dreaded what he might say. Then his breathing caught and he said,
I can't believe she grabbed me like that. Well, Blackjack doesn't do anything if it's not spectacularly. Even groping the last stallion in the wasteland who'd want it.
Rampage said dryly, and despite myself I felt my cheeks burn.
It's stupid. It was an accident. I know that.
His thin voice cracked again.
I thought I was over this. Yeah, funny how it's never over. Till it's over, she said. So, is it because she grabbed you, or because she grabbed you? I don't want to talk about it,
he said in a brittle voice I'd never heard before. I was so used to him being calm and stoic. Then there was a horrible hitch in his throat. Then a sob reached my ear.
Took you back, didn't it?
Rampage said in a calm, mature voice so terribly different from her normal impudence, or the snide tone after killing Thorn.
It was an accident, P21. She saw the mines overhead and just acted. It's what she does, and I know she feels horrible for it. I know. She killed him, and she used me, and I know she's a good pony and that she didn't mean it, but...
He broke off in a shaking sob.
So, it's because she grabbed you,
she murmured softly.
I know it was an accident. I sometimes wish she'd left me outside Stable 99. That she hadn't tried to find me in flank. I feel so glad to be alive till anything reminds me of that place, and it feels like I'm back there.
He sniffed terribly as I clenched my eyes shut.
And worst of all, the second she did, I was ready to...
He choked like he was being strangled.
Perform?
Rampage softly offered, and he sobbed again like a colt. I sat there helplessly, crying too as I listened to him right around the corner. A good pony. That's what he'd called me. He was the good one. Even Rampage, barring the murderer within her. They were all good ponies. I was the one so cowardly that I needed to eavesdrop.
I couldn't help it. She touched me like that, and it was like she was next on my breeding queue. Everything I felt and thought and wanted was just gone. She touched me like that, and I was back there again.
He gave a hysterical, half cry, half laugh.
You want to know what I thought? What I really thought? I hope she likes it. That's what I thought. Not, get your horn off me. Not, how dare you. Not, why did you do that? Not even, pretend like it's not a big deal. You've been conditioned to think that way. It's not your fault. Blackjack is heading back there now to deal with the ponies responsible, right? You need to not blame yourself. This was a stupid accident. She didn't mean to do it. You didn't mean to react as you did. Neither of you is to blame.
She took a deep breath.
I'm going to contact Dr. Helpinghoof in Manhattan. He's a lot more reliable than those Ministry of Peace hacks. I probably wouldn't have been able to stay in the Guard if he hadn't.
Rampage. What are you talking about? P21 asked softly. There was only silence. Then she stammered.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know any of that. But I could tell you Helpinghoof's clinic's terminal number. His receptionist is Carrot Cake. He tries to sing Sweetie Belle. I don't know why I can or how I can. Or why the hell did I just say it?
Now it sounded like Rampage was the pony falling apart, but it also seemed to be pulling him back together as well. She let out a shaky little sniff.
Do you think maybe Blackjack's assembling the deadliest therapy group in the Wasteland?
Goddesses, I hope not. Blackjack the therapist?
We'd be doomed.
Then he paused. You know, I haven't heard anything explode in a while. You don't suppose she's listening to us right now, do you?
Come on, even Blackjack wouldn't be that dumb.
I grimaced, rose to my hooves, and tried to sneak away as I blushed shamefully. I needed to find a hole and bury myself till I sprouted some new brains. They grew like mushrooms, right? Keep them in the dark and feed them shit. Maybe smarts grew the same way. Unfortunately, I was so occupied by thoughts of fungal brains that I kicked an empty Sparkle Cola bottle.
Blackjack!
The two shouted indignantly as I ran. But afterwards, there was laughter too. Maybe there was also some hope.
Okay, what kind of sick creature traps a baby carriage?
Glory asked loudly, blatantly deflecting every trace of awkwardness off my screw up on the stairs. The baby carriage trap had been extremely effective, using a baby's cry. Only a reflexive telekinetic shove by me had pushed it down the gap between the platforms before it exploded. A second later, and only Rampage might have been walking out of here. Smart ones. It almost got all of us. P21 muttered as we looked around the subway platform. And we also know that Perch was right. These sand dogs are sitting right on top of a treasure trove of salvage to be able to set up traps like this.
So, where are they? They have to know we're here.
I muttered. The subway station was clearly a home, or a den of some sort. There were beds set up in the subway trains, a table with some recently opened cans of food on it, a radio playing DJ Pone 3, of all things. Were they out scavenging? Reading? Lying in wait? I walked over to a table and looked at some busted open energy cartridges. There was also a small smattering of ruby flakes. My eyes scanned the room, but my EFS came up blank. I trotted to a door marked Maintenance Access on the far side of the room. There was a blue bar inside.
Hello? Is any pony there?
Then I remembered that we weren't looking for ponies. The maintenance space was filled with electronics and strange mechanical devices. The opening door brushed against strange metallic limbs hanging from racks over workbenches that rattled against one another. I looked at the tools set neatly in order. On one workbench sat empty Sparkle Cola bottles that held a small stash of emeralds, rubies, and even some diamonds. One corner had a bed and a filthy blanket covering it. I had to admit, I was tempted to take everything that wasn't nailed down. For some reason, some pony had taken a small plush rarity unicorn toy and turned it into a pincushion. It didn't look like there was much of a use for needles in a workshop like this. There was a little sign above it. No whining. The wall by the bed was covered in papers. A lot of them appeared to be old plans and designs. The Victory Plaza Rail Station, Shadowbolt Tower, Tunnel 456, Lunar Hydro Spark Generator System, the Tokamer Reactor Facility. All of them were stamped Ministry of Wartime Technology, Classified, Ministry of Arcane Sciences, Top Secret, or Ministry of Morale, Forever. Here and there were photographs of a trio of dogs. One showed them dressed in army fatigues similar to those of Macintosh's Marauders and armed with energy weapons and a lot of explosives. They were grinning while behind them smoked numerous craters. Another one showed the three standing in the middle of a half-buried ruin, bizarre and disturbing spirals carved into the walls and doors. A third, this one grainy, black and white, showed a valley that possessed a stark kind of beauty to it. There were a few more here and there of individual dogs, and I was surprised by the sight of the dogs in some sort of eating contest with Twist, while Vanity looked on in disgust. The picture next to it had Twist sprawled out in defeat. The other interesting thing was the newspapers. Ministry of Arcane Sciences declares Pleasant Valley Relocation Act. Diamond dogs to be moved to appointed land outside Appaloosa. Ministry Mayor Twilight Sparkle invoked eminent domain to appropriate the Pleasant Valley mine works, and has started eviction processes for the current inhabitants, beings known collectively as Diamond Dogs.
Although the natives protested the relocation extensively, Princess Luna granted the royal decree and dispatched members of the newly reformed Equestrian army to maintain peace in Pleasant Valley and surrounding communities like Olney. Twilight Sparkle said that she sympathizes with the Diamond Dogs, but that the needs of Equestria must take priority. Pleasant Valley is being designated a critical MAS research facility for the testing and implementation of radical and potentially hazardous spells, as well as a high-risk storage area for any potential byproducts. She assures the Diamond Dogs that a new community for them will be founded elsewhere in Equestria.
Another article caught my eye. Trail of Broken Diamonds.
Military units supervised the relocation of the Diamond Dogs from Pleasant Valley this week to a temporary holding camp near Appaloosa. Units from the 1st Regiment were deployed from Hoofington and the 99th from Philadelphia to ensure that the Diamond Dog removal went smoothly. Despite their apparent submission, several Diamond Dogs made a futile and savage attack on the Ministry Mare Twilight Sparkle. Their attack was foiled by a handful of troopers led by Big Macintosh of Ponyville, who quickly came to the rescue of Miss Sparkle and were able to subdue the attackers without casualties. Some critics have dubbed the relocation the Trail of Broken Diamonds, citing the unprecedented move to force non-ponies from their homes. Legal experts have pointed out that Diamond Dogs, being non-citizens of Equestria, are not protected under law. Ministry Mayor Rarity was quoted saying, "Oh, don't worry about those things. They're not like ponies or even zebras. As long as there are some gems for them to dig up, they'll be perfectly fine. Well, except for the breath, and the fleas, and their nails. Oh, and don't get me started on their manners." Critics of the plan have pointed out the region set aside lacks sufficient clean food and water for the Diamond Dog population, and speculate they will try to return to their homes in Pleasant Valley.
I looked at the picture of a very relieved and slightly mussed Twilight Sparkle shaking the hoof of a slightly flustered Big Macintosh. Behind there were 2 rows of canine creatures walking away and carrying bags and packs, or pulling wagons. Pegasi flew overhead with their guns trained on the canine creatures. Off to the side, Applesnack, Doof and Twist were pinning 3 canines while Vanity tied them up. Hoofington, Golden Blood to welcome Diamond Dog workers for reconstruction. Then beneath it, Golden Blood, unfit for position. I saw one of the 3 from the second photograph shaking the hoof of a pale, sickly-looking unicorn. The canine, his vest ripped and patched, hardly looked happy about the deal. To be honest, neither did the unicorn.
Golden Blood, once famous for his stirring Hoofington Rises speech prior to his collapse on the ruins of City Hall, has arranged for several of the strange Diamond Dog beings to be permitted to aid in the reconstruction efforts. The reconstruction effort has stalled due notably to the fact that ponies are absolutely lousy with digging. Diamond Dogs possess a capability to dig that far exceeds what we can accomplish with sweat and magic alone. Employing Diamond Dogs is the difference between having Hoofington completed in 3 years or 30. A Hoofington native, Golden Blood has received increased criticism for diverting substantial resources to the reconstruction effort, and has drawn the ire of aristocrats across Equestria for proposed taxes to pay for the war. His recent comments about ending the war at any cost have drawn many to question his commitment to serving Princess Luna and the kingdom. Others question his physical soundness after his injuries.
I heard the faintest sniff from beneath the bed, breaking me away from the article. Who hides under a bed? I knew who.
Come on out.
I said as softly as possible.
It won't hurt you.
It took about a minute before she emerged. I'd seen the sand dogs in Mariponi's memory and in the pictures, but I had to admit that there was something distinctly creepy about the strange upright build of the being. Its arms hung down almost to its knees when fully upright, but nearly reached the ground as it slouched forward before me. A wet black nose sniffed constantly as she, unless Diamond Dog colts were in the habit of wearing dirty dresses, kept her eyes low. I was shaken by how thin she looked, but then she hadn't had a stable feeding her 3 recycled square meals a day.
Hungry?
That got her looking at me, at least for a couple of seconds. I fished around in my bag and came up with some cans of cram. Personally, I wasn't convinced it was meat, but I wasn't going to eat rad meat to find out. However, she recognized it at once. I tried pulling on the tab, but it snapped off and I was left staring at it stupidly.
Damn. I can open it, Pony,
she said, holding out a hand. Her other forelimb ended in a stub just below the wrist. I looked at her sheared-off stump, then nodded and floated the can to her. She sat on the bed and braced it between her knees, her remaining claws ripping the lid off the square can as easily as tearing tinfoil. She wasted no time in bringing it to her lips and chowing down as quickly as she could. I feared she might choke, but she finally ate the last bit of salty pink meat and licked the inside clean. She still looked wary.
Are you going to make us leave?
Was I? An hour ago, sure. Why not? Help Riverside by clearing out raiders and sand dogs. Now...
No. No, I'm not.
For some reason, that made her shake as she backed away from me on the bed with a whimper.
Please don't kill me,
she whispered softly.
What?
And that was as far as I got as a powerful hydraulic limb closed around my throat and lifted me from my hoove. I looked around at Nuff. The magical cloak hiding him crackled away before my eyes. I stared at another canine, though this pale creature was more machine than flesh. The green eyes were quite sharp, though, as they glared at me like a balefire blast.
Go away, pony. This is our home now. You leave or die.
From the malice in his eyes, it was fairly clear he definitely preferred the latter. Metal teeth gleamed from within old greying gums as an acrid reek made my eyes roll. He wore a faded and frayed collar studded with pale rhinestones, and there was a weathered dog tag that read Rover. My first instinct was to try and blow his face off with magic bullets, but I took in how much metal he had on his skull. My magic had lousy armor penetration, and I could tell he could pop my head off like a can of cram if I didn't kill him.
I don't want to fight you.
For some reason, the statement just seemed to piss him off more.
Oh, then you want us to leave? Or you wish us to dig or fight? Or experiment on us? Or do you just wish to whine at us?
He snarled as I dangled from his grip.
Why not, ponies? Just leave us alone.
I will. I didn't know. I'll take my friends and go. I don't want to kill you,
I replied. And I really didn't want to die. Somehow, he looked sour about that. But given how hungry he looked, I was glad he wasn't adding pony to the menu. He carried me out into the subway platform where more dogs were appearing from holes in the ceilings, tracks, and for some, thin air. A few clearly had some sort of cloaking talisman built into their cybernetics. P21 and Rampage were both pinned down physically, and Glory, who'd flown up from a vent in the ceiling, was kept pinned by small arms fire. Lacunae remained standing calmly behind her magic barrier, with the minigun focused on the three largest and most heavily augmented dogs, driving them back with bursts of fire that sparked and rattled off their metal limbs.
Fight's over! We're leaving!
I shouted.
Not yet! I almost got them exactly where I want them!
Rampage yelled as she squirmed beneath one who sat firmly upon her.
Fight's done, Rampage!
I said as I glanced back at Rover. He looked decidedly sour, but set me down. Slowly, the combatants released each other, and I got a better look at these sand dogs. This was just like Riverside. There might have only been 2 or 3 dozen at the most, and even if these people were far stranger, there was no missing the signs of hunger. The slat sides and thin limbs, even their augments didn't seem to be working with as much power as they could. I saw one sand dog take the ruby flakes from the table and brush them into a little port on their limb. Instantly, the lights on the arm glowed brighter. I glanced over at P21 as he was released, then looked up at Rover.
You know, there was a raider camp we took out an hour ago not far from here. They had food.
I commented lightly, and instantly saw the excited looks and heard the sniffing. Rover glanced down at me with a disgruntled little snort, but then the old dog gave a wave of his augmented hand. About half of the camp went running the way we'd come down, sniffing our trail.
Can we talk?
Always talking. Why can't ponies just leave?
He grumbled as he started back towards the maintenance room.
Because I want to help you,
I replied. I heard P21's groan from all the way across the platform.
What happened to you?
What happened?
He froze and straightened, turning and looking down at me. His eyes almost seemed to glow.
What happened?
He growled softly and then turned with a snarl, flinging his arms wide.
Pony happened. Pony take us home. Pony take gems. Pony take lives. Pony take world. Pony take everything. Pony tell us what to do. Pony tell us, go there. Pony tell dogs, shut up. And always Pony is whining about stupid pony war,
Said as he slammed his mechanical claws into the platform.
Why is Pony always whining about Pony? Piggy not whine, cow not whine, chicken and dogs not whine. Only Pony is always whining about Pony.
Okay, somebody had issues with whining ponies.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you mad. Please. I just want to know how I can help you.
Please.
He said with a little snort as he looked at me with narrowed eyes.
Only one pony say please and mean it. But he just used dogs too.
You mean Golden Blood?
He gave a hiss.
He comes to us in desert, dry sandy ground. No gems, only rocks. Tunnels cave in all the time. Not home. He asks us to come to city, dig tunnels, pay in gems. Say city home to all that help build. We come. We dig for ponies and he pay in gems. Digging hard and dangerous. Dogs get hurt, and pony magic not work well on dogs. Pony use dogs and make machine parts for dog and pony. But city tunnels not home either. Dogs want dogs home. Gold pony say he try and help.
And did he?
He talked to pretty pony princess. He tried to tell us not to go home. Tell us home not home anymore. Gems gone, nothing left. But it is home. Do ponies not understand? And we wish to return. So gold say maybe if dogs fight zebras, we go home. So we fight. But there are many zebra. Then one day, not many dogs left. We ask, can dogs go home now?
He made the strangest little snuffling noise.
Golden take me home. Valley gone. Big pony building instead. Tunnels full of poison. Ponies poisoned our home. Our home. Dogs not poison pony home. Dogs not make pony kill for dogs. I go back, try to tell, but others return home anyway. Poison home is still home. Ponies call them stupid. Ponies try and make us leave.
The snuffling noise increased, and I realized the old dog was trying to cry, but had lost the ability.
Dogs know. Okay, pony? It is our home. Dogs know we die there, but it is dogs' home. Let dogs die in our home. But Gold ask if we come back to Hoofington. He say please. He say sorry. He means both. Some come in tunnels dogs dug. We stay. Bombs fall. Many pony die. Many dogs die too. But even after bombs, pony is always telling dogs to go. Always. Always, always, always.
And I had too, I had to admit, feeling sick to my stomach. The moment Perch told me there were things in these tunnels with something that could help Riverside, I'd taken a tangent away from saving 99, like an idiot. They'd been right to fill the entrance with mines. They'd mined aid containers and soda machines and things ponies would go after first. Even the baby basket had a pony doll inside it.
Pony now knows. Pony should leave,
Rover said as he took the young dog's hand and returned to the maintenance room. I sat down and looked over at my friends and the dogs who had remained to watch us. Slowly, I stood up and trotted back towards the still open door. As I knocked, I heard Rampage say to P21,
Told ya. 5 bits. Pay up.
May I come in?
I asked as I saw Rover trying to wire together a child-sized mechanical hand. He growled faintly as he glared at the metal. Well, it wasn't a no, so I stepped inside and watched as he worked the tools with familiar skill. He opened up a tiny port and shook in a few crushed emeralds. The lights on the hand immediately lit up, the claws twitching.
I'm sorry,
I replied.
I didn't understand.
He took the hand and attached it to a brace. The young dog took it and attached the device to her stump. She gave a yelp, and then the hand twitched as magic animated the metal. She stretched up and gave the old dog's scarred cheek a lick before backing away. I fished out another can of cram for her. Rampage didn't need all of it. Her mechanical claws tore open the can as easily as her natural ones did. She looked up at me warily.
Thank you, Pony,
she said, drawing another sharp look from Rover. Then an afterthought she added,
I'm Fifi.
I gave her a smile. Kids were kids, after all. Unless they were Zodiac cults, but still. My kindness didn't seem to sit well with Rover, who looked at me like he wasn't sure whether he should thank me or not.
What do you want, Pony? You tell us where to find food, we let you go. Why you stay?
I want to help you.
I said with a smile.
It's sort of my thing.
We do not want Pony help,
he said, pointing a finger at me.
Pony help always hurt dogs. Always.
Please. You need food and you need gemstones, don't you?
I thought back to Bottlecap.
You can trade. Trade for food with Riverside, and I know a pony who owns a gem mine.
Pony does not listen.
He growled as he rose and faced me.
Pony help always hurt dogs. We try trade. Ponies cheat us. Ponies steal from us. Attack us. Dog cannot trust Pony.
He said as he looked down at me with a strange look.
Who is Pony who come here and think she make everything all right?
I'm security. I just want to make everyone safer.
I said lamely. Who was I to think I could just trot down here and overcome 2 centuries of pain and mistrust? I was an idiot. My friend has a gem mine. Oh, really? Ever heard the phrase, too good to be true? And I had no idea if Dusty Trails would help, or if Perch would be willing to play fair. He just looked at me with a scowl, his green eyes hard and suspicious. Then Fifi tapped the half-empty cram can against his metal arm.
Eat. Dog not eat pony food,
he replied sourly. She beat the can against his arm again.
Go play, Fifi.
She frowned, narrowing her eyes and banged the can against his arm several more times. Finally, he gave a resigned sigh, lifted the can and let the slimy pink mass remaining plop into his mouth. He chewed, looking at me thoughtfully.
Pony thinks she can get other pony to listen.
I can try.
That was the most I could promise. Rover scratched his white, tattered ear in a little cloud of dander.
I did not think Pony help Fifi. I not think security on radio real Pony, or she help dogs.
He pointed his mechanical claw at me.
We will bring things to trade. If village ponies are good and fair, we will trade for food. If not...
He just sighed. If not, then they would slowly run out of food and gems to power their limbs. And then they would die.
I will try and convince them. I will.
I'll do better. I couldn't change the past, but I could at least try and do better now and in the future. I had to admit that we were spoiled by the Mirrormare teleport. I thought that Lacunae could simply teleport us all across Hoofington at will. She'd firmly corrected that notion. She could teleport herself across Hoofington if she had to, with potentially 1 passenger. Without soaking up globs of radiation, however, she would only be able to teleport the 5 of us a few hundred feet. That was enough for us to get outside, but it left my head spinning and feeling as though I'd just gotten struck by lightning again. Lacunae donned her black lace dress before we returned. A large purple unicorn caused far less commotion than an alicorn. She wrapped her minigun in a burlap sack as she floated it casually beside her. The weight seemed easily within her range of handling. If I tried carrying that weapon, my horn would burn out after 5 minutes. Back in Riverside, I approached the dozen or so ponies about the sand dogs coming to trade. The tone was immensely skeptical. Perch outright suggested ambushing them just to thin out their numbers.
Listen to yourself.
Glory suddenly shouted, the half-healed cut on her face giving her a somewhat ghastly expression.
Aren't you supposed to be ponies? Because all I'm hearing is a lot of bandit talk. Kill first, take now. How is anything supposed to get better if ponies just kill and steal and take? It's got to stop.
I had to admit, I was pretty impressed. And it shut up Perch enough that the villagers seemed open enough to give it a try. The only thing they had to lose was everything.
End of part 2. Hey there, friends. Sorry this chapter is coming in a bit of a trickle. The story is getting a little complicated, and I still haven't quite gotten over my cold from a few weeks ago. Old Storybook is on the mend, though. Let's see. I know that all of my listeners were curious about me a little, so I don't see why I shouldn't start to tell a little of my own story. It might surprise you to know, but I used to be from a stable myself, just like Blackjack, and a certain other behorned little filly that I had the pleasure of bringing to you all. My stable, Stable 106, was built close to the coast, where there wasn't really any experiment going on in there like some of the other stables. But we were lucky enough to have a window out into the sea, where we could see all of the delightfully mutated sea life we have down here in Hippocampus. Now, I had to leave when a band of Steel Rangers decided it was going to be their home. Well, maybe it's best to keep my tale of woe for another broadcast. So it's music time. Here's Prince Whatever with Ghost in the Sun. Enjoy, people!